Ava came in the house last night. I guess it was about 10:30. She'd been out doing a Zoom in the studio out here. And she said, I want you to know Boom Boom is so ghetto. He's so ghetto. He's crazy, Eddie. He's crazy. Here's what she's talking about. She come out of her studio and she walked down this little walkway. It's got some night lights out here. Well, Boom Boom had got up on this table right here. You can see where he knocked some stuff over. He'd hopped up in this chair, got up on this table. So when Ava come around through here, it startled Boom Boom, and Boom Boom jumped up and started barking at her. I guess like caused her to have a heart attack. She said, he's so ghetto to get up on a table like that. Anyhow, I love Boom Boom. I thought it was funny. I'm like, you got her good, didn't you, buddy? You got her good. You was waiting on her. You liked her better, didn't you? Hey, everybody. Good Thursday morning. Eddie William Sellers sitting out in my garden this morning. What time is 6:49 this morning? Sitting out here having my coffee, pondering life, pondering the world, pondering the times we're living in. But good morning, everybody. The Morning Post this morning. Meanwhile, while waking up this morning in a world that has gone crazy, at least the Democratic voters of Maine tried to go with someone who was not your typical politician in Graham Plattner. Unlike the Democratic voters of Georgia, while choosing Keisha Lance Bottoms. Meanwhile, the president flies over to the NATO summit on the new Air Force One that Qatar somebody donated to, a $400 million plane. Then we, the taxpayer, have to pay another $400 or $500 million to put the security apparatus on it. And then Donald Trump says it's a personal gift. He's going to take it with him when he leaves office, put it in his presidential library. Good heavens, y'all. It's a mess, isn't it? But he flies over on that new Air Force One, and then he flies back on the old Air Force One because they said, I don't know. It might not be as safe as you think it is. It's something to do with Iran starting back shooting missiles at people. Meanwhile, Susan Collins, who has been a senator for 30 years and who will now easily be reelected, and will be in her 80s when her next term is over, will be like Senator Dianne Feinstein of California. Y'all remember when she was so old and decrepit? They was rolling around in a wheelchair. She had Alzheimer's, and she looked like an old corpse. Well, that's just the way politicians, we the voter, keep sending the same old people up there until they die, like Mitch McConnell and Dianne Feinstein and now Susan Collins. We don't learn, do we? We hard-headed. But more than likely, Susan Collins will die in office, being wheeled around as an old dying corpse like so many of them up there in Washington. Meanwhile, these two women that came after Plattner were former girlfriends. These were not underlings in the office, campaign staffers. These were not some women that he drugged in a bar one night and drugged back to his hotel. These were two former girlfriends who had sexual relations with him. And while both of them acknowledging that they were dealing with a man who was highly troubled by PTSD and drank a lot and had issues. I can hear some of you out there saying, oh, now you're justifying women getting raped and this and that and the other. No, I'm not. It's political, y'all. Anytime something's happening in a political situation, there's politics involved. Meanwhile, I am curious, though, why CNN and Fox so desperately wanted to bring Plattner down. Both are owned by big-time MAGA supporters. Anytime the media outlets go after someone, there is probably more going on to it than what we know. Jake Tapper with CNN almost just seemed gleeful in doing the interview with the girlfriend that he knew would finally bring Graham Plattner down. He even told her, he said, you were very reluctant, and it took a lot to get you to sit down to do this interview. But Jake Tapper was relentless. For whatever reason, he wanted to bring down Graham Plattner. You're like, Eddie, that's a lot of conspiratorial type thinking. Yeah, even Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I called Margaret Taylor Greene yesterday. A lot of people are like, it's not Margaret, it's Marjorie. Well, if you're in the South, if you get the first part of the syllable right, you're pretty much good. She could be Marjorie Taylor Greene for all I care. But even Marjorie Taylor Greene said she can smell a political hit. This was all a political hit to make sure they bring him down. And so I'm suspicious of it. But I am curious when CNN and Fox and all just wanting so desperately to end his campaign. When both are really owned by big-time MAGA supporters and Trumpers and so forth. Jake Tapper with CNN almost just seemed gleeful that he got that interview. I don't like that, I don't like that. If you're going to do an interview with her properly, you probably should have peeled that onion down to where you find out, why are you doing this? Why? Because she said she wasn't doing it to get people not to vote for him. Why are you doing this? Anyhow, so people are like, oh, you're not supporting women now. I don't know. To me, that seems fishy. It just seemed fishy to me. Meanwhile, the powers that be up there in Maine, the Democratic big shots, big wigs, big heads, they get to go in the back room and decide who's going to be the next nominee, as opposed to the voters of Maine who've already spoken. And he had a lot of those same allegations out there before they still voted him to be the nominee. And I think people are just so sick of just typical politicians that the country is starting to move towards socialist democratic people and people like Graham. We want, and even here in Georgia, this guy that spent $128 million of his own money, this Rick Jackson, who is a kook. Good Lord. But people do want something different, but they don't want the typical politician. But my God, we have to be careful. We wind up with a spray-painted orange man who's as nutty as a fruitcake. Took me a minute to get that out. But meanwhile, the Democratic bigwigs in Maine get to go in the back room and choose who's going to be their nominee, who's going to lose to Susan Collins. Anyhow, the Democrats have already blown this. Just like the Democrats, I believe, blown the governor's race here in Georgia by putting Keisha Lance Bottoms at the head of the ticket, as opposed to someone who's not a typical politician that could galvanize and motivate and steer up a movement across the state that would be like, we've had enough. You can tell politics frustrate me, yet I digress. Meanwhile, the war with Iran is cranking back up again. So much for how Trump said that they were totally destroyed. What a fiasco the great negotiator, the big orange one, has turned out to be in world affairs. Remember how he said he would end the Ukraine-Russia war on day one, that Vladimir Putin respected him. How he was going to invade Greenland and take back the Panama Canal. He is nothing more than a big bully who wears lipstick and fake tans. What a joke he is on the world stage. The worst foreign policy group of people in Washington we've ever had in the history of this country. Just a laughing stock. I could take my old Rhode Island Red Hens out here and do better foreign policy than that bunch of nutcases. Meanwhile, groceries have gotten so high, at least here in Atlanta, probably across the country, that before you go into a Kroger or Publix, you first have to ask Jesus to walk with you and help you through the checkout. It's expensive, y'all. And y'all remember when all the MAGA people was like, oh, the price of eggs. Oh, how are we going to survive the price of eggs? It's stupid, isn't it? Stupid. Meanwhile, how can anyone turn on the news and not think, what the hell? This is all the stuff that MAGA wanted? Where the world is now, the country is right now? Seriously? In reality, Joe Biden had 4 years to try to shift the country into a better place and just made it worse. He should have never run for a second term. He was the bridge to all of this shit. And the country did not want to turn to his vice president to save us. Meanwhile, here in Atlanta, it is hot as hell. I didn't get my walk in yesterday. Abel was gone all day, and I didn't trust walking in this heat by myself. I'm not as invincible as I was in my 40s, and my 10 minutes is up. Love y'all. Let's go have a good day.